What's up guys, it's Josh from KeepItTechie, and today I want to do a quick video telling you guys why I use Linux over other operating systems. So, as I stated in the intro of the video, I wanted to talk about why I specifically use Linux. A little while back, someone posed the question why I use Linux over Windows and macOS. So I wanted to go through and answer that question today. And first off, let me start off by talking about what Linux is. And just to break it down a little bit, it's basically a operating system just like Windows and Mac OS. And I'm only explaining this for people that don't have a clue what Linux is. But Linux was created back in the 1990s by a guy named Linus Torvalds. And the reason why he created this operating system is to have a more free and independent operating system for people that are developers and all that good stuff. And he basically took the Unix operating system and rewrote the code in order to create Linux. So that's basically where Linux came from and how it was created. Now, just to talk a little bit about it more, the actual Linux operating system, they have a whole bunch of distributions, and it's basically because Linus Torvalds, when he created the operating system, which was basically the kernel, people took that kernel and added on top of it and created their own operating systems from his Linux, the main Linux operating system that he created, or the kernel. So that's how we have Ubuntu, Kali, Debian, and all those different distributions that you hear me talk about on my channel. Someone actually took the time to take the Linux kernel and add a whole bunch of software to it and create those different distributions. And those distributions have followings behind them and communities that actually support and actually help develop the code for the distribution itself to make it better. But anyway, that's in a nutshell what a distribution is. And just to give you a little bit more information, Linux was actually created for mainframes and supercomputers, and as a matter of fact, it runs on 100% of the world's supercomputers that are out at this time. But that was generally what it was used for and developed for. But over the years, it has gotten more and more user-friendly, with the desktop environments, the different themes, and the way you can make the operating system looks. It has become a whole lot more user-friendly to where anybody can pick up Linux and actually learn it. But anyway, Linux is a great operating system for anyone that's, either technical or non-technical. It doesn't take much time to get the hang of actually using it, especially with the way a lot of these distributions are built. They make it very user friendly, but you can also take it to where you can make it a little bit more difficult by getting in and installing Arch. And that way you can kind of understand the way the operating system works as far as the boot process, understanding the way drives are partitioned and file systems are created by running through the Arch install or the Gentoo install, or a few of the more difficult types of distributions that are out there to install. That will give you a little bit of a better understanding of how the operating system actually works. But let me go down and get into the reasons why I like Linux over Windows and Mac OS. And the first thing I want to talk about is that Linux is free. And what I mean by free is monetary. You don't have to spend any money to get any Linux operating system. I remember back in the early 2000s when Ubuntu was out. I think it was like Ubuntu 12 or something like that. I remember people were actually selling USB sticks with Linux and with a Linux Live USB on it, or they were also selling the CDs, and I apologize, the CDs was what I actually saw. They'll have the live ISO written to a disk, and then they would put it on Amazon or eBay or one of those selling websites and actually sell the operating system. And basically the way they would get around it, because you're not supposed to sell the operating system at all, they would basically say that you're paying for the CD, for the work of them actually writing it to a CD, because most people, it probably was a little difficult to actually do that at the time. So they would just quickly spend $15 or something and get the ISO sent to them in the mail, and then they could start the operating system, not knowing that you could download the actual ISO, burn it to a disk yourself, and actually install Ubuntu. But anyway, that was kind of cool or whatever, just to think about that. But what made me think about that was that the cost, it doesn't cost you anything to actually get the Linux operating system. But anyway, that's one of the big reasons that I actually use the Linux operating system over Windows. Because most of the time when you purchase a laptop, it comes with either Windows or macOS pre-installed, but you can also get Linux installed as well. And sometimes they'll cut the price of the operating system off on the actual computer because it has Linux installed and Linux is free. But anyway, that's the first way, or the first reason why I use Linux over Windows. Now, the second reason that I love Linux over Windows and macOS is the privacy and security. And this is one of the main reasons why Linux is kind of like the go-to server for supercomputers. That's because it's very secure. It's very powerful on security. And the reason why is a few factors, but the main reason why is because people typically create viruses directed at Windows and Mac OS, because that's majority of the computers out there. It's not that many people running Linux as a desktop or Linux as a server on their computer to get personal information or try to fool people out of their information on their system by putting some type of malware or virus on the actual system. But most people, tend to create viruses for Windows and Mac OS. Now, lately, they have been seeing some viruses that are being created towards Linux because more and more people are starting to use Linux. But if you're into security as well as your privacy, then I would recommend you check out Linux for that reason, which is one of the main reasons why I actually use Linux. I value my privacy. Now, I just wanted to cover the privacy piece as well. One thing about Windows and Mac OS, they send your data back to their servers. Pretty much anything you do on the system is most likely documented and sent back to Microsoft server or Apple server. And the reason they say they gather this information for you, because it's basically to make the operating system better. But I don't feel comfortable sending my information back to Microsoft. And at the end of the day, you do not own the operating system. Actually, Microsoft owns the operating system. You're just basically paying for a license to use it. So you can't make any changes to it. And that'll kind of go into another area of why I use Linux. But yeah, what they call it is telemetry data. So like when you search the web on your Windows system, that information is sent back to them. Documents that you create on the actual system, that information is sent back to them, at least what you're actually creating. And they could possibly, get copies of that if they need to. Because at the end of the day, they have full control over the operating system. I mean, it's just like when you're in the middle of doing something and all of a sudden your system shuts down because they push some updates to your system that you can't stop from being installed, because essentially they own the operating system, and so they can push out whatever changes they want. They can force you to reboot the system whenever they want to reboot the system, which is understandable because it's kind of like a liability thing. So if they find a bug or something that they're trying to patch and they want everybody to get on that patch, that's kind of like the best way to get people to update their system, is by forcing it on them. But I don't like that at the end of the day. That's just my personal preference. I understand security. I understand, the importance of running updates. So I do that on all my computers, but the average person doesn't. So that's kind of why they do that. But I still want to value my privacy. I still don't want that information sent back to these tech giants so they can gather it and use it for advertisement purposes and other purposes that they actually use this information for. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is the freedom of accessibility, meaning that you can do anything on the Linux operating system that you want to, because no one owns it. No one is blocking you from viewing the source code of the actual operating system. So if you want to understand the programming language, C, which is what it's written in, the kernel is actually written in, you can go in and actually modify it to your liking. You can change things to make it better. You can even create your own distribution. You don't have those options with Windows and Mac OS. With Windows, you cannot view the source code. If you guys remember, a little while back, the source code for XP was actually released. Someone leaked it or whatever, and you can't. And Windows XP has been out for a very long time, and it's not supported anymore. That's why Microsoft really probably doesn't care about the source code being leaked, but that's considered their intellectual property, which is understandable, and they're all about making money. And if you're able to see the source code, then you can possibly create your own competition or a competition to Windows by viewing their source code, modifying it, changing it up, and making your own operating system. So in order to prevent that, they keep the source code hidden, and you can't make changes to the actual operating system no more than what they let you do, especially in Mac OS. That's one thing about Mac OS, you're kind of limited on the things that you actually do. If you pick up a Mac OS laptop, play around with it for a while, and then let's say you get your cousin's laptop, Mac OS laptop, it looks basically the same. Everything works exactly the same for Mac OS. They kind of have a uniform feel to the operating system. So any Mac OS that you get on, you'll be able to use it once you learn how to use yours. Well, with Linux, you have a lot more freedom to make changes to the operating system. You can play around with my operating system, get used to using it, and then you can go check out someone else's computer and it'll look totally different. You can make the operating system look however you want it to look. So that's what I mean by freedom. You have the freedom to change pretty much anything you want with any operating system, and that's another reason that I like Linux over Windows and Mac OS. And this kind of rolls into the next reason, which is customization. I really like to customize my system and make it look how I want it to look. Customization is a very important feature that I like about Linux. It's only so far you can go with Windows and Mac OS, unless you install some type of third-party application that somebody wrote in order to change up the way Windows look. I haven't looked into any of those type of products with Mac OS, but I know it's something out there for Windows, like Windows Blind or something. I remember playing around with that a long time ago. But Windows, you can only go as far as they allow you to go, as far as making changes to the operating system that you want. You know what I'm saying? So that's another big factor, or another big reason why I like Linux over Mac OS. And just to give you a little bit more, they do in Linux, there's plenty of people out there developing, themes, developing different things. You can have your Linux operating system actually look like a macOS did a macOS desktop environment. You can also make it look just like Windows. I think I did a video a little while back where you can install a Windows desktop environment on Linux, and it's not Windows. It's kind of like a theme that somebody created. They created all the icons and all that good stuff to make it look just like Windows. And really, the whole purpose of that distribution was to kind of help people switch from Windows over to Linux, make that transition as smooth as possible, because things look more like Windows within that Linux distribution. And then also there's another one I believe is Elementary OS. That one pretty much looks like Mac OS. It has that Mac OS look and feel, and so it'll be an easy transition for you to switch from a Mac operating system to a Linux distribution that kind of has that feel that you're used to using. Now, the last and final thing that I want to talk about is support. This is very important to me, and it should be important to you. With Windows and Mac OS, you basically have to go and pay for support when it comes to, just fixing the operating system if something goes wrong, especially like in the business environment. A lot of companies with the different software that you can install, like for instance, Microsoft SQL Server, if you run into an issue, you have to pay for support in order for them to fix it or come up with a fix for you. With Linux, it's pretty much people out there that have a whole bunch of support that can help you with a whole bunch of repairs for free. You don't have to, worry about paying anyone unless you don't understand Linux. Then you will obviously want to pay for support, and that's where you get into Red Hat. That's how Red Hat actually makes their money. They make their money off of support, because you can't sell the Linux operating system. It's free and open source, so therefore the way they make majority of their money is from paid support, so someone that can go in and actually fix whatever the issue is. But with the Linux operating system, like for a daily user, there are plenty of support forums out there. It has one of the biggest communities of support, for a different operating system and different languages, all that stuff is. And a lot of people overseas actually use the Linux operating system, worldwide. So that's one cool thing that I actually like about the Linux operating system. You can get as much help as you need, and it's all online, what I'm saying? And like I was stating with the different distributions, there are big communities behind each one of those distributions that explains pretty much anything and everything you may run into, other than like new hardware. You may be the first one that have a specific processor that may have some module issues or something, like kernel module issues or something like that, where you have to kind of wait for something or put in a bug fix to actually get something fixed on the system. But there is plenty of support. There's always people developing for the actual operating system, new people actually getting into the Linux community and understanding how the software actually works, and building new software and coming up with fixes for old software that is out there. So that's one big difference that makes Linux stands out from the other operating systems. But the biggest thing is you don't have to pay for any type of support. People in the Linux community, in a lot of different Linux communities, are very helpful. That's another thing. You can, post something in a forum board saying I'm having this issue, and someone out there will most likely try to help you come up with a fix for that problem. So that's pretty much all I wanted to talk to you guys about. I wanted to share my experience a little bit with using Linux and why I actually use it over Windows and macOS. The first thing I do when I get a new laptop is wipe Windows off of, well, actually I back it up because it's a free operating system that you typically would have to pay for. So if I ever want to revert to Windows, which that has never happened because I always continue using Linux because I understand it and I like it a whole lot more than Windows. But it's a free operating system with a free, license key and all that stuff. So I basically make a clone of the hard drive, store that somewhere, and then wipe it and put Linux on it. But I recommend you guys check out the Linux operating system. Just go through and look on Distro Watch and find you a operating system. You can read about the different operating systems, and then if you're on Windows or Mac OS, install VirtualBox or VMware and install whatever distribution that you want to check out and see if you actually like Linux. And then also a lot of the software that you would use or that will help you transition, like LibreOffice and different things like that, or different programs like that, they allow you to open up the files that are created by Windows, like let's say the Word documents, so it's WordX or whatever the extension is, X. You can actually open up those documents within LibreOffice, no problem, and they'll work pretty much the same way. So that's one cool thing about it. But check out Linux, what I'm saying? It's a great operating system, and it's getting easier and easier for people to actually transition over and use a Linux operating system because, like I stated, it's a very super operating system that I think you guys would want to check out. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. If you're interested in switching to Linux, leave a comment down below, or if you have any questions, leave comments down below. You know what I'm saying? I'll try to help you as best I can. That's one thing I like to do with my channel. I try to read every comment and try to respond to everybody if you have any questions or anything. And then also, if you want to donate to the channel to help me continue creating Linux content, then my Cash App is down below, as well as my coin wallet. So if you want to donate some cryptocurrency, my wallet addresses are below. So check that out if you want to help me out and support me so I can continue making great content. But I hope you guys have a good day and keep it techie.